Hey guys, today we're going to do transformations. We have quite a few of them, and hopefully if we have time, I'll be able to show you on Desmos what a lot of the things that we're doing here on paper, you'll be able to see how it works on Desmos. So let's go ahead and get started with our first transformation. First off, we're talking about quadratic equations, and I'm going to go ahead and write the parent function, what that looks like. F of x equals x, which is the same as saying y, oops, I almost forgot, squared. That is the parent function. The parabola that you see on the graph is the most basic parabola that you can have. You notice that it crosses, the vertex is at 0, 0, and it curves upward. So what happens if we put a negative in front of the f of x? Now, I want you to just think, you're going to hear me say a lot because it kind of simplifies things. If it's happening outside of the parentheses, it's affecting the y. If it's happening inside of the parentheses, it's affecting the x. And so that might be helpful. I don't know. So let's go ahead and go on. So I have, it's in front of the f of x, so it's affecting the y, and there's a negative. So I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite that. I'm going to, instead of having, which by the way, this table that I have here are all the ordered pairs that created the parabola that you see on this. So now we're going to change things up. So if I put a negative in front of f of x, then this becomes a -4, a -1, a 0, a 1, a -1, and a -4. So I'm going to go ahead and cross this out, and I'm going to start graphing these new points, and you're going to see what happens. So I have a -2 and a -4, which, by the way, I'm going to make this. Sometimes these graphs aren't the best, so I'm going to show you again. You can see right there, there's the vertex. Okay, -2, -4. Then we have a -1, -1, -1, -1. Then there's that dot, and then here, and then there's, okay. And so this is kind of going, if you can see, it's kind of flipping. So if I put a negative in front of f of x, it's going to reflect across the x-axis. The x-axis. That's what happens. That's all I got to remember. All right, let's do something's going on inside of the parentheses, so it's affecting the x. It's kind of like saying negative x. So let's see, -2 becomes a +2, +1, 0, -1, -2. So let's see what happens with this. Now, I want to show you something really quick because this is important for you to see. So on the original parent function, let me just go ahead. I'm going to mark some points off so that you can see them. So if you notice, it starts out as -2, +4. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do -2, +4. There's my A. That's my first point. -1, -2. And so we're just going to stop with the first point. That is the first point. Now let's see what happened to my first point. Now I have, again, let me get rid of this. Now I have a +2, +4. So now my first point is over here, and let's just call it A prime. We'll have this one be A prime. And so if you notice now, it's going to flip. So it's actually, if I mark all these points off, again, going up and around, it's going to look exactly like the original parent function, only what was on the one side is now on the other side. It's flipped like this. So if you put a negative within the parentheses in front of the x, it's going to flip across the y axis. That's all I need you to remember, okay? And the other one, let me go ahead. I feel like we wrote it and it disappeared. There it is. Okay, let's go on to, whoops. Okay, things are disappearing on this page. I don't know why it does that, but you probably already have it written down. Let's keep going to the next one. All right, transformations. All right, if you notice this new one here, the parent function looks exactly the same, only it says plus D. So let's see what that means. Let's see. I'm going to analyze. It's outside of the parentheses, so it's affecting the y. So instead of using these original points for y, I'm going to add 2 to all of them. So now I'm no longer going to look at this. So you can see the original. So let's see what happens to the points. I'm going to speed this up a little bit too. I don't want to put in all the points. I think that takes up too much time. But what's going to happen is this vertex is going to raise up 2. So everything's going to be the same, only it's just going to be pushed up 2. So that's all that's going to happen, right? So this is going to end up, it's going to be just as fat. It's just going to be up 2. So let's look at the next one. The next transformation says -3. It's outside of the parentheses, so it's affecting the y again. So it's kind of like saying y -3. So this 4 would become a 1, -2, 0, -2, 1. I'm going to get rid of that. So what is that going to do? Well, I'm going to start with the vertex. I'm not going to graph all these points. I'm trying to save us some time. But if I start right here at the vertex and I count down 1, 2, 3, and let's see, can I change my color? I haven't done that in a long time. Draw. Now, here's my next one. It's going to be just as fat. It's just going to be down 3. So this is called a vertical. Well, let me do this one. Vertical translation. It's important that you say vertical. Notice it's moving up and down on a vertical line. It's also important that you say whether it's moving up or down and then by how much. And I'm just going to say D units because those units can change. I'm going to go ahead and change the color of my ink back to blue. And this is also, this first one's a vertical translation up D units. Okay, don't worry that I'm not filling out the little descriptors on the side. It's basically re-saying what we're already saying in this video. And so you want to remember reflections on the first 2 translations, and on the second 2 translations, we want to think about vertical translation up or down. Now, all of these are transformations. So don't confuse translation with transformation. You can't say that this is a vertical transformation. You have to say it's a vertical translation. That is a transformation, though you don't need to add that. So you'll be asked to describe what's happening, what is it doing to the parabola. Okay, let's look at the next one. Right, the next one, if you notice, it's right here. It's inside the parentheses, so it's affecting the x. So I'm going to look at the x, and I'm going to do, okay, now this one's a little bit different. So if this is going to feel weird, and I could go into a big, long explanation, but in the parentheses, everything ends up doing the opposite. And so this +2, as much as you might think that it's going to go move to the right, it's actually going to cause it to move to the left. Now remember, the y is up and down, x is back and forth. So these are going to be horizontal translations, but they're going to do just the opposite of what you think they're going to do. And when we did linear transformations, I don't know if you remember that, but a lot of times when it affected the x, it was always doing the opposite also. So this is actually going to be like subtracting 2. If you can think of adding a negative or something like that, that's kind of what's happening here. So I'm actually going to do x -2. So -2 minus 2 is -4, -1 minus 2 is -3, -2, -3, and -1. Okay, so whoops, -2, -4. Okay, so let's see. Whoops, have a boo-boo. 1 minus 1 minus 2 is a -1. I don't know what I was thinking, so don't worry about it. I'm okay. Everything's okay. Let's go on. All right, so what is this going to do? How does this affect it? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take that first, this is the vertex, and what I'm going to do is instead of moving it to the right 2, I'm going to move it to the left 2. So it's going to go over 2, and then the rest of the parabola is pretty much exactly the same. All right, I'm going to change color again. I think it makes things less confusing. So if a plus 2 is really a minus 2, for transformation number 6, what do you think a minus 3 is going to be? It's going to be a plus 3. So we're going to go plus 3. So it's going to move to the right, and this one we move to the left. So for my x, I'm going to end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to take this. This is going to be x plus 3. And now what do you think this is going to do? Well, again, if I start with the vertex, I'm just going to move the parabola over 3. 1, 2, 3. It's going to be right here. Bam. So what is this called? What do we call this? Well, let's see. The second one here where it says plus C, it's going to be a horizontal translation left C units. And for the other one, it's also going to be a horizontal translation. But as much as you'd think it's going to be going to the left, it's going to be right C units. Okay, I think that's it.